Hey there, it's CJ Willie and I'm cracking a pack. Today is pack number 2 in my Magic the Gathering Gatecrash Fat Pack. Once again, I am doing Fat Pack Bingo. Check out the preview video on my Gatecrash Fat Pack. I've added the link to the preview video in the description below. So, I've got my great bingo checklist, or bingo card here. Pack number 1, we didn't get anything. So hopefully we'll get something today in pack number 2 and be able to mark off 1 square plus the free square, because everybody needs a free square. Okay, now let's get pack number 2 out of my box. So I've still got packs 2 through 9 left to go, and we'll crack pack number 2 today. As I crack the pack, as usual, it's going to have my casual, the Magic Gathering player point of view. So it's not like a Friday Night Magic or Pro Tour grinder point of view. It's just basically, you know, since I play very casual kitchen table Magic, you know, what is my opinion on the cards? Okay, let's get to cracking this pack. So, first card out of the pack is Massive Raid. It's a 3 mana, 1 and 2 red. Instant. Massive Raid deals damage to target creature or player equal to the number of creatures you control. So obviously if you're playing in a go wide, you know, maybe Goblins deck, and there was a Goblins deck in the Return to Ravnica block, this can do a lot of damage. Let's say you've got 6 or 7 token Goblins out, you're going to be able to kill off pretty much any creature that you want. Next up is Metropolis Sprite, 2 mana, 1 and a blue. It's a fairy rogue. It's a 1/2 flyer. You can pay a single blue mana. Metropolis Sprite gets +1, -1 until end of turn. So this card has been reprinted a handful of times, and it's seen some moderate play. In Limited, I drafted it because I like blue-white flyers, but it's nothing that I currently have in a constructed deck. Next up is Angelic Edict, 5 mana, 4 and a white. It's a sorcery exile target creature or enchantment. So, you know, once again, pretty good and limited. It takes care of just about any creature. And in the Theros block, which was part of the Return to Ravnica standard cycle, for, you know, 5 mana, you could get rid of one of the annoying god cards since they were legendary enchantment creatures. Next is Devour Flesh, 2 mana, 1 and a black. It's an instant. Target player sacrifices a creature, then gains life equal to that creature's toughness. So this is really good on a solitary board. So if your opponent has one big creature that they're beating you down with, or early in the game if they've got an annoying creature that you just don't have a way to deal with, Devour Flesh works out. The problem is later on in the game it gets worse because they will always sack their worst creature. Next up is Martial Glory, 2 mana, 1 red, 1 white, instant. Target creature gets +3/+0 until end of turn. Target creature gets +0/+3 until end of turn. So this is kind of a cool trick. Really, if you wanted to, for both mana, you're going to give your creature a giant growth or a brute force. You know, it's a cool combat trick, but usually in a Boros type deck, there are other combat tricks or other kind of instants at this cost that I'd rather play. Looking at you, Lightning Helix. Okay, next is Psychic Strike, 3 mana, 1 generic, 1 blue, 1 black. It's an instant counter target spell. Its controller puts the top 2 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. For a while, I did have a constructed modern, so this is before Pioneer, a modern blue-black mill deck, and I played this card quite frequently because I like to get the top 2 cards. I'd like to mill them while I'm countering their spell. It was fun for a while, and then I decided blue-black was not the best mill strategy based upon the cards I had, so it became a mono blue mill deck, and I think it's a pretty good deck based upon the cards I have. Being, you know, casual kitchen table Magic player, you know, I don't spend a ton of money on cards, so I use the cards that I pull in packs or get through trades. So yeah, I think it's a good deck. Forced Adaptation, single green mana, enchantment or enchant creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a +1/+1 counter on enchanted creature. This is a common that I do like, and I've played it in various hardened scale versions of a deck that I play. You know, you put it on a creature for 1 mana, and each turn it's going to grow. If I've got a hardened scales out there, it's going to get 2 counters instead of 1. So it is a card that I have played in a constructed format, and it's had a lot of utility outside of, you know, being kind of limited playable. Keymaster Rogue, 4 mana, 3 and a blue. It's a human rogue. It's a 3/2. It's unblockable. So before they changed back to their can't be blocked template. When Keymaster Rogue enters the battlefield, return a creature you control to its owner's hand. So, you know, one of these kind of unblockable creatures that we've seen reprinted, there was one that was in the Ixalan block. That same kind of thought process. You play it, you bounce a card back to your hand, and then you've got an unblockable creature. You know, there's a lot of times that bouncing that card back to your hand or creature back to your hand is very utility, especially if you've got an enter the battlefield effect. Next up is Horror of the Dim. 5 mana, 4 and a black. It's a horror at 3/4. You can pay a single blue. Horror of the Dim gains hexproof until end of turn. So yeah, I mean, in Limited, I remember playing this and it was really fun because for 5 mana, you play it down. And then if they tried to target it, since it was a 3/4, usually in a blue-black controlling type deck, you know, you just pay a single blue mana and give it hexproof. But it's nothing that, you know, I even play in a current deck. Guildscorn Ward, single white mana. It's an enchantment or enchant creature. Enchanted creature has protection from multicolor. So this was pretty key in the Return to Ravnica block because you've got a lot of multicolor creatures. You know, the guilds really focus on having multicolor. And so protecting your creature from a multicolor spell, say like Abrupt Decay, Detention Sphere, was a pretty useful mechanic. Next is Coerce Confession. It's our first uncommon. It's 5 mana, 4, and then Hybrid Dimir. It's a sorcery. Target player puts the top 4 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. You draw a card for each creature card put into that graveyard this way. So, you know, you're really gambling. You're hoping that as you mill them, they're going to mill a creature card, and then you're going to be able to draw. I've tried messing around a little bit with this card. The problem that I have is that for 5 mana, it's pretty costly. And, you know, if you don't get to draw at least 2 cards off of this spell, it's a major whiff. Because milling their top 4 for 5 mana is really expensive. And if you can't get, you know, some sort of swing, you draw 2 cards, they mill 4, it makes this card not good at all. So I've yet to really find a niche for it. Our next uncommon is Skullcrack. Yes. So I am going to be able to mark off a bingo square today, and the free square, we'll do that right at the very end. Skullcrack was one of the cards that I did need because I've got 3 copies of it and I wanted another copy for a play set. Skullcrack is 2 mana, 1 and a red instant. Players can't gain life this turn. Damage can't be prevented this turn, and Skullcrack deals 3 damage to target player. So although it's not, you know, a lightning bolt that kills a creature, what's really cool about it is that it prevents life gain and it also keeps them from playing a fog effect. Skullcrack's a great card. I currently play it in a Goblins deck, a really wide token Goblin, you know, at your face, utilizing Goblin Grenade. Skullcrack is a really great addition into that. So if I'm playing mono white or, you know, some sort of life gain shenanigans, it kind of keeps me right in the game and is able to deal 3 damage right to, you know, my opponent. Next up is Experiment 1, another great uncommon. So in this pack we got 2 of, I guess you could call them mythic uncommons. Experiment 1 is a single green mana. It's a human ooze. It's a 1/1. It has Evolve. So just a really quick explanation on Evolve. It's the Simic mechanic. So when a creature enters the battlefield that has toughness or power greater than Experiment 1, Experiment 1 can evolve. What that means is you put a +1/+1 counter on it. So if I, for instance, played my Horror of the Dim in a Sultai deck and Experiment 1 was already out, Experiment 1 would become a 2/2 because I'd be putting a +1/+1 counter on it. You can also remove 2 +1/+1 counters from Experiment 1 and regenerate it. Great card. I currently play a play set of it in a Hardened Scales deck, and a lot of times it's a great turn 1 Hardened Scales, or even turn 1 Experiment 1, turn 2 Hardened Scales, and then for 1 mana I've got some other green cards that have a toughness or power greater than Experiment 1, and on turn 2 I'm attacking with a 3/3. So Experiment 1, great card. All right, our mythic rare or rare, let's hope for something great, is a Soul Ransom. So not awesome. I do like it. It's blue-black. Unfortunately, this card has been downshifted. In later printings, one of the master sets, it's an uncommon, so it's not going to have much in the way of value. Soul Ransom for 4 mana, 2 generic, 1 blue and black. Enchantment or enchant creature. You control enchanted creature. discard 2 cards, Soul Ransom's controller sacrifices it, then draws 2 cards. Only any opponent may activate this ability. So it's a really cool way of taking it over a creature. If they want to, you've stolen one of their great creatures and they can't deal with it, so they simply discard 2 cards. The cool thing is, yeah, you lose control of the creature. It goes back to them. You sacrifice it, and then you're going to get 2 cards out of the draw. Soul Ransom's a really cool card. I like playing it. I've only had 1 copy of it. Now that I've got 2, I can probably figure out a really build around in the deck that I've got that makes sense. Okay, and then we have an island and a horror token. So not an ad card, that's a plus, but a token that's worthwhile. In this pack, my favorite card's either going to be between Skullcrack or Experiment 1. I'm going to go with Experiment 1. Skullcrack is a great card. I really like playing it in, like I said, the Goblins deck, where I can prevent life gain and keep myself on target to kill him quickly with burn spells and Goblin Grenade. But Experiment 1 is so much fun. Playing it in the Hardened Scales deck, if I get kind of that dream sequence in the first 3 turns, Experiment 1 can take over the game before they can do anything about it. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did like it, please subscribe and share. Take some time to tell me in the comments section what was your favorite card or the best card out of the pack. Until next time, when I'm back to crack pack number 3 from my Magic the Gathering Gatecrash Fat Pack in Fat Pack Bingo. We got a Skullcrack and marking off the free square.